Hey everybody, it's Tom Foster on the World of Marketing. And today I've got my buddy, Jeremy Weisz. How you doing, buddy?
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Thank you. I was on your podcast just a couple of weeks ago. You had me, and Jeremy is the man. Look, I've got to write up here. I got to read this to everybody, okay? See, I learned this from you. This is how you do it. This is how the pros do it, okay? So, he's a doctor, everybody. Dr. Jeremy Weisz and John Corcoran, did I say it right, Corcoran? Are the co-founders of Rise25 LLC, a company whose mission is to help your business connect to your ideal prospects, referral partners, and strategic partners using a done-for-you podcast. So these guys make podcasts. What we're doing right here, right now, what I've been doing. The bottom line is we make sure you get ROI from your podcast, leveraging strategy based on our collective 20 years of podcasting experience. I didn't even know podcasting had been around for 20 years. Rise25 helps you to connect quicker to higher caliber referral partners, clients, strategic partners, and industry influencers to generate ROI without heavy selling. Jeremy continues to run his own chiropractic and massage facility in downtown Chicago and is founder of a nutritional supplement business. Wow, I didn't know that stuff about you, my friend. Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for being on the show.
I'm excited, Tom.
Well, bro, I mean, you do this day in and day out, every day, podcasting. So it's a thrill to have you. You're like the man. You're like the guy that, and you do this for other people. You help other people do it. We were just talking before we got started about, I'd be interested to how you could help me do a better podcast, how I can make this better.
I mean, Tom, the way I look at the podcast, I guess, and just life in general is, how do I give as much as humanly possible to someone? Okay. And so what are the ways I can give to a relationship? And for me, I found no better way over decade to profile the people and companies I admire and have them on my podcast. You know, when I'm reaching out to you, I want to come with an open hand. Like, how do I give to Tom? Okay. And one of those ways is I have you on. And then when I find a company that would be good for you to be introduced to, now I actually have this amazing asset I can send to that company to make it even easier for me to introduce them to you. And, you know, I make 5 to 20 introductions a day in my network. Wow. And I love when my friends have podcasts, because it's what's more powerful is like, hey, why don't you get on a get to know you call with Tom? Or, you know what, Tom is an amazing podcast and platform. I'm sure he'd love to feature you. Do you want to go on? Right. So that is, you know, it's funny, you know, with a podcast, the podcast is so many things, right? Rolled into one. And it is content marketing. It's SEO, which you're an expert at. It's relationships. It's strategic partnerships. It's, you know, a client pipeline, all those things.
Fun.
But, you know, you asked, how do we help? You know, but like the first thing I recommend, there's really 5 steps I talk about and think about when it comes to creating a podcast, a profitable podcast. Okay. Because the reason profitable is key is because if you don't see any ROI, you will quit doing it. Whatever. Like, I don't care. The most altruistic people like Jeremy, I just want to do it as a passion project. It's fun. I want to give back. Great. But there has to be some linkage to the business, right? Because it is time and energy and money, because you're going to be paying a team regardless. You should not, you know, the business owner should not be doing anything except for talking, building the relationship, and running the business. So the first thing I recommend from the steps to a profitable podcast, and by the way, when I'm speaking this, I'm speaking about B2B podcasting, not a comedy podcast. We don't do comedy podcasts. We don't do like passion projects or like thriller series where it's like a murder mystery. It's a B2B podcast. So let me just say that. Okay. So the first thing is to create a dream 100 list. And people a lot of times think their dream 100 list is clients, potential clients. For us, I think of, you can broaden it, right? Who are strategic partner, referral partners that are in the ecosystem? It could be softwares, it could be services. I know in the law space, I forgot the company that does, there'll be 24-hour like answer, like staffing. Ruby, right? Ruby. Yeah. Like
yeah.
When
I
you
just had them. I just had them last week.
Boom, exactly. So you have a company like Rubicon, they have thousands of lawyers as clients, or they have had
14,000,
tens of thousands. So when you think about that, it's like, well, great. We can give to them and recommend them as a platform, and hopefully they can recommend to you as a platform. And even if, let's say they recommended 1% of their client base, right? That's still a lot of people.
Yeah.
It would, 100%. You'd be swamped. So
we just got a ton of referrals. We're doing a webinar with them too.
Exactly. So when I have someone on my podcast, keep in mind there, you could have strategic partner, referral partner. You build you could have potential client. There's a lot of different types of episodes. But when I have someone on, actually, what I'm thinking about is not how I can get a client or how I can get a referral partner. I'm actually thinking about how I can get them a client. Because if I get you a client, if I have you on my podcast, Tom, and I get you a client, how much will you love me afterwards, right? Or I refer someone to you. Thank you. Not everyone does. So, but, I look at ways that I can give to you. And, you mentioned in the intro, like without heavy selling, like I don't, selling is kind of a dirty word for some people, but, I feel like selling is giving someone what they want.
Well, you're a relationship
right?
Guy.
And not selling someone that they don't want it or need it, someone they need it. But with this, I don't have to sell because people know, what I do. Like if you're interested, you can ask and we'll have a conversation about it, but I don't have to.
That's just what I did right before. Right. And then I said, wait a minute, let's start the podcast because I want to get this recorded. I wanted to get this on the podcast because, here I am. I do a podcast. I've been doing it for a couple of years now. And I met you a month or so ago at Brian Kurtz's Titans Mastermind. And was a great pleasure to meet you and get to know you a little bit. And then I was on your podcast and I'm like, shit, I can learn from this guy. And I'd like to work with you on how to make our podcast better. So I'm in. I'd like to hire you as my podcast consultant, whatever you, guru, coach, whatever you, mastermind, whatever it is. I'm in.
That sounds awesome.
Hired. Done.
That sounds awesome. So, you're like, without even knowing what we're going to talk about, but
whatever it is, it works.
But, like we were saying,
Tony Horton. This guy, hey everybody, this guy had P90X Tony Horton on his podcast. Among who else? Like you had some serious celebrities. And your partner too, right? I mean, like I was looking at the webpage. He's Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. And,
he was a speechwriter for the White House, so he has pictures with him and Bill Clinton and Barack Obama and other people. And I joke around that he screenshots himself in with presidents in his spare time. He uses Photoshop. No, those are real, but
they look pretty real.
I've had a lot of these because I love hearing founder stories and entrepreneur stories. So some of these people, most people may not have heard of these people. They may have heard of the companies, right? So there's a really interesting one. I encourage anyone listen on Inspired Insider to. I had the co-founder of Pixar on, Alvy Ray Smith, and he was talking about how the inception of Pixar and George Lucas and Steve Jobs and how Toy Story came about, and just amazing stories, right, from the journey. And even the founder of Atari and Chuck E. Cheese, Nolan Bushnell, he was Steve Jobs' mentor. And he talked about how Steve Jobs offered him $50,000 for 33% of Apple and why he turned it down. So just some really cool stories. But I love
Wow.
talking to people no one's heard of, because they're just doing cool things for the world and their company. And so you mentioned about, so the first step of the Profitable Podcast is create your Dream 100. So when we're working with a company, we start off creating a 6 to 12 month plan for the podcast. And because anyone can talk into a mic and publish it online. But the key is, so it follows a strategy from a relationship standpoint and a content standpoint. And so we map all of that out to begin with. Okay. We also map out thought leadership episodes. So a lot of times we did a full episode on the 5 different types of episodes every podcast should be creating. And we go into great detail with it. One of those, like I mentioned, which would be like a strategic partner episode, like you did with Ruby. And another is a thought leadership episode. So for you specifically, how do you save time, energy, and money? How do you replicate Tom? Well, one of the ways you can replicate Tom is if you would answer a question a certain way that your customer support gets over and over and over again. It's not just them saying it, but it's you going, hey, I know you're wondering how long this SEO thing takes to rank. I know we've been doing it for, 20 years, but actually I'll tell you a little bit about it, but also I'm going to send you a video where Tom breaks down the 7 things you need to do right now that's low-hanging fruit to start to rank your law firm website. Okay. And so it's great content, but it's also, you're the authority in it. And also you're answering questions in there that they would have had anyways, that saves your support team and you time. So when you get to that conversation, it shortcuts it. Right. So I've had people come to me, Tom, this happened the other week, and they're like, hey, Jeremy, they get on the line with me and they're like, I go into kind of what we do. They're like, I've already watched like 5 episodes of you talking about this. I'm ready to go. And I feel still the need to explain, but like, no, Jeremy, you don't get it. I already watched it. I know what you're going to say. We're good. And so it allows you to get deeper in your conversations. Okay. The second thing, so creating that plan, that Dream 100 foundation, and it's not just clients, it's potential. It's actually referral partners, strategic partners also, but is outreach. Okay. So how do you reach out? Right. So there's specific things to do when you're reaching out, and you geek out on copywriting like me. So what is the best messaging for outreach? And so there's a lot of different ways to reach out. Obviously, if you have the fundamentals of a podcast, it makes it much easier to give. So you always want to reach out in a giving fashion. You always want to have the social proof elements in that reach out. So if I'm interviewing you, from copywriting 101, you want to include social proof, right? So if I'm like, hey, I also had Tony Horton on, there's immediate credibility and social proof there, especially if you've heard of the person. And so you want to have a give in there. You want to have the social proof elements in there. And obviously a call to action. Like, what do you want them doing? Like, do you want them scheduling? I like a very small call to action. So I don't even ask them, hey, do you want to schedule? But I said, hey, would you be interested in coming on? Right. So I'm not asking you to schedule anything. I'm asking for a micro commitment, which is yes. Like, it's like when I message you, I didn't say, hey, book a time. I'm like, do you want to come on? Here's all kind of the rest of the email. And it's very easy for you to respond with yes. So I don't usually immediately say, book a call.
I was excited. I was honored.
Thank you. The next piece is the art and science of producing amazing content, right? So you create this Dream 100, then you reach out, okay, you get the people on, then what? You have them on, you feature them. What do you do? Well, as we know, the age-old, what people love are stories. Okay, they remember stories. So incorporating stories as much as possible and allowing the person to tell stories. That's why I say the Nolan Bushnell story, because people are like, it's like a curiosity invoked. Wait, I want to find out, why did he not buy Like he'd be maybe the richest man in the world. I don't know. Maybe he would be. I don't know what 33% of Apple is, but he probably would have gotten diluted anyways. But 50,000 for 33% of Apple. I want to hear that story, right? And what happened? So incorporating amazing stories into the interview is key. The other part people ask about, which is this is not even part of the being a profitable podcast, but people geek out on it, which is the technology setup. Well, the first question I get,
right, it's true,
is what mic should I use? What software should I use?
Right.
And so Tom, no one ever quit because they're like, I didn't have a good enough mic.
Right.
Okay. That's just not why people quit. They quit because they don't have a full strategy for doing it. But I'll answer the question anyways, because if people are wondering, it's funny because there's a large studio. They were building a huge podcast studio in LA. And someone said, Jeremy's the podcast guy. You got to call him. I get on the phone. I go, listen, if you're going to ask me technical setup, I am the worst person to ask. Okay. I have a Blue Yeti mic. You can get it for like $115 on Amazon. You USB it back in your computer and you're good to go. Okay. You have a really nice mic there, Tom.
Well,
so you need
it's my music stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You're like, you know 100 times more than me about a technical setup.
Right. This is a voice. This is a singing microphone.
It's super nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could tell because like it's got a nice holder there and you got the nice boom arm. It's super nice.
And I had this all set up before. And when the pandemic hit, I just came home and I started because we've got a different,
what kind of mic is that? Is it like a Shure mic or what's the brand?
It's what kind is it? It's Audio Technica.
Audio Technica. Okay. So I have a Yeti here. I have a ATR 2100 or something Audio Technica, which is $75 that you can USB because this one's like 10 years old, Tom. So I'm like, if this conks out, I have one that I could just plug it right in.
I think this was like $750.
Yeah, you've nice. If you're looking at the video with Tom and not just listening, he's got like an amazing guitars behind him. He's like a real rock star. Okay. But you need a USB mic and Zoom. Back when I was podcasting before, really. I was using Skype because Zoom didn't exist.
That's what I have at the office. When I'm doing them from the office, well, if I'm doing them over Zoom at the office, all I'm using is my little Logitech camera and Zoom. No fancy mic there. And if I have people, we have a podcast studio where we've got cameras and mics.
Yeah, you're fancy.
But
you're fancier than me.
Guests come in, we have people doing it, and we're videoing it. That's special occasions.
Yeah.
When we're getting, post COVID, we get back together again.
Exactly. But then my point is, it's simple. I was using Skype because Zoom didn't exist over 10 years ago when I was doing this. And so I was using Skype video. Now just use whatever is easiest for you. Like if some people use Teams or they use whatever they use, just record. It's fine. Right.
Yep.
And so that's the technology setup. Again, that's what people want to talk about, but that's not going to affect the profitability. If you have Tom's $700 mic or my $100 mic. Okay. The next is, you want to build your give loop and grow your reach. And again, what are ways to give to the guest? So with Tom, when his episode came out, we did a full post. John, who obviously wrote for the White House under Bill Clinton, like heads up the writing editing. So there's a full post. There's the video that goes on YouTube that we embed in there. There's the audio part that gets, goes across to Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, Amazon Music, all of those. So we put it across all the platforms. And then we, of course, message the guest and let them know they can share it, and we share it. And then we also, a couple weeks later, will create a 30 to 60 second snippet of that episode, and then we'll post it on our social media, going back to the main episode to give to that guest even more. For me, Tom, even if no one looks at that, I mean, I hope people do, but it's just a way for me to say, Tom, you're special to me. We took the extra effort and did this for you, even if 3 people look at it. But it's something you're proud of, and then you could share it with your network. Okay.
Right.
So that's about growing your reach, making something you're proud of and the guest is proud of, that end product, that they can share it, even with the close circle, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't, for us and for you, you don't have to hit the masses. You don't need to get 1 million downloads. You need 1 million people looking at it, but you need the right people looking at it. You want to serve the industry that you serve, right? Which are the law industry and law firms.
Right.
So that's it. You could have like 100 people look at it, and that's a huge win. It doesn't have to be. So I tell people to kind of steer away from vanity metrics. You don't need vanity metrics with this. You're serving a specific industry, a niche industry. Okay. And then the next step is really turning your guests into partners, which is everything I just said. How do you give to them? So I'm sharing that on all these platforms. I'm thinking, who would be a good introduction for Tom? Things that are not involving me at all, actually thinking of the other person. So turning those guests into partners. And that's really the kind of the 5-step process in my head that I think about when you want to create a podcast. So ultimately, for a business owner like you, even for your team, I want your team focusing on the highest level tasks they could be focused in on, right? So what else could they be doing if they weren't doing stuff on the show? It's like, cool, I'll get it. So I think of, for us, we're an easy button. We have a dashboard that our clients will upload the Zoom to. It takes them 2 minutes, and then we do everything else around it, so that them and their team can focus on. So let's say your team members who work on that can now do something, actually like tag people on social media or reach out to people that are leading to more connections. That's what we want them doing, that would propel the company forward. And then also the other thing is project management, right? So you don't have to project manage it. If you have another, as that's why people hire you as an agency. They could try and do SEO. Probably some of the law firms are amazing writers, but they're not going to do that. Nor if they did have a team, they'd have to project manage that team. Now they're spending time managing it. So they're spending time away from their core service and what they do. So a lot of people are like, cool. We have lots of agencies as clients. Do they have the capability to figure it out and do it? Of course. But maybe they just do web design. They don't want to figure it out. They don't want to do it. It's like, cool, we can just hand this off. You do it, So that's kind of the long and the short of it. And the way I think about it.
It's very good. I mean, and we're kind of doing most of the stuff that you were just talking about there. I mean, but I think that we can always do better. I think that, in terms of, we definitely need to optimize better. We need to get, I'm always looking to get more views, but you're right. I want 100 of the right views, and that's what you want. You want your niche audience to be listening to your podcast, but we're pretty happy. But let me ask you a couple. Let me ask you a couple of questions. So how did you, because you're a chiropractor, you're an interesting guy. So some other stuff that I know about you is that I heard a rumor that you always wear basketball shorts under your pants because you never know, you're like a nut basketball player. Is this true?
It is true.
So that is awesome.
When I did that, Tom, I actually honestly didn't think it was weird, and I think maybe I mentioned it to someone, and they thought it was the strangest thing. But to me, that was normal.
The only guy I know that
was normal. Yeah, I mean, even
actually, my son used to do that. He used to
really?
wear his basketball shorts under his pants because it was comfortable.
And they get used to it. And honestly, the tuxedo in my wedding, I had basketball shorts underneath.
That is hilarious.
So
I am. You play basketball
quirky.
every day?
No, I don't. But you never know
Never
when something's going to happen. You need to drop your pants, have the shorts ready.
You got
you're ready to go.
You got a ball. That's great.
Exactly.
So did you play ball in school or any of that?
I played for a couple of years in high school. And I just have fun. It's just a lot of fun. Baseball is my main sport, though.
Really?
Yeah.
So how did you first get into, because you're a chiropractor. That's what you went to school for?
Yeah.
And are you a practicing chiropractor?
So I studied biochemistry in Madison, and then went on to chiropractic school. And then, I practiced for many years. And as you know, even when you're a law firm, you're a chiropractor, you're a doctor, it's a small business, right? And so you have to learn pretty much everything. And so obviously you go to school and they teach you how to be a chiropractor. They never teach you anything about the business side of it.
Right.
There's like one class, right? And so I had to go separately to all these conferences and, to
learn how to market.
To learn how to market.
Run the chiropractic business. Yeah.
Exactly. So I was going to all these internet marketing or marketing conferences back in like 2007. And I came across a couple people that were doing some interviews and stuff like that online. And I'm like, this is right up my alley. I love talking to people. I have a insatiable curiosity. So I'm going to start doing this. And so that's when I started doing it. It had nothing to do with my chiropractic office, by the way, which would have been smart if I wanted to, network with MDs in the area. But I just was fascinated by all different types of entrepreneurs. And so that's what I started doing. And I started connecting those people. But I was really bringing back, it did serve my chiropractic business, because if I would have someone on talking about what they did for marketing or what they did for leadership, and I was learning, because a podcast is professional development, right? So if I want to learn about, SEO, I could have the world's foremost SEO experts like Tom on my podcast and ask him the questions and learn from him, just like you are with me. Like, listen, how do I make my podcast better? I'll have Jeremy on to talk about his strategies and share with me. And you get to learn directly from the people you want to learn from, right? And share it with everyone.
How has this, besides what you already said, how has this podcasting changed your life?
I say this not even joking around, but I say almost everything in my life that's good goes back to a podcast, except for my wife. I did not meet my wife on a podcast, but I do know someone that did meet his wife through the podcasting.
Oh, wow.
But John and I, our business partnership, because of podcasting, because we knew each other in the podcasting world. We met indirectly because of a podcast, because I did the top direct response marketers in the world on my podcast. I did a series, and I had Brian Kurtz. After that, Brian Kurtz became an amazing friend, mentor, colleague, and that's how we met. Yeah. I've also had Kim Walsh separately from Brian Kurtz. If we hadn't met through Brian Kurtz, we would have met through Kim Walsh Phillips, because Kim Walsh Phillips said, I have this amazing person, Tom, that you should talk with, and you should probably have on your podcast. So Kim also I've had her twice on my podcast before. So just my friend, I've gone to people's weddings, been invited to weddings, gone on family vacations with people. My best friends, I can track back most of them to something related to the podcast.
That is fantastic.
Yeah. So it's changed my world, from a personal standpoint, and you do business with your friends and you refer to your friends. So it's about forming amazing relationships. And that's really what it is for me.
Let's see, I'm on I think we're on our maybe 110, 100 and change episodes of podcasts. You're in probably the thousands. But Yeah, I would agree. I really enjoy doing it. I love meeting different people, and hearing their story. Um, it's it's a completely different format. It's very interesting coming from my background, digital marketing, SEO, and whatever. Because for me, it just allows me to be free. And I think, we were talking about all the things that are great about a podcast, earlier on, like I was throwing in, it's fun. It's fun to do, right?
100%. It's
And
you.
anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. And, I'm starting up another podcast. As a matter of fact, I got another website that I'm brewing up, called Are We Aliens? That is my that is my own, that I'm working on with a buddy of mine, Bill Voss. He's a client too, but it's been a project that we've been working on for years. But we're gonna have a podcast associated with that, and just see.
It's not about extraterrestrial though.
Huh?
It's not about extraterrestrial aliens, right?
Yeah. No.
It's specifically about aliens.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's about aliens.
I didn't know if
we
it was
aliens?
like
So I'm going to go in all
symbolisms or
kinds of directions. See I'm going to try and get all the all the hosts of Are We, Ancient Aliens, on there, and see what I can do. I mean, if like,
It was
I'm like,
funny,
why not?
Tom. My daughter, I don't know why, the other night with the Alexa said, "Alexa, are there aliens?" Randomly, and Alexa was like, "While there has been no specific proof, blah blah blah, but a lot of scientists think that there is life on." It was an interesting answer.
And now I just brought that up.
Yeah,
isn't that interesting?
So we'll have to listen to your podcast to.
I'm gonna have to hire you for help with that podcast.
No, you just ask Alexa. I know nothing.
Right.
That's fascinating.
So let me ask you another question. For somebody just getting started out, what are the 3 top priorities that they should be focused on?
Yeah, I mean, the priority is, and I think this is instructive for any business in general, right? Even if there's like a law firm listening to this, because it doesn't just apply to a podcast, right? It applies to a business development plan, which is sit down and create, and you already know the people, create that Dream 100, and some of those people are already in your cell phone, and start there, right? And that's what we do. Like when start with a company, I don't care if someone's been podcasting people come to us, they've been podcasting for 5 years, 7 years, or never. We start with the same thing, which is let's brainstorm and map out the Dream 100. And usually we have like over 17 categories that we actually go through. So the start is always there, because if you
That's
have
actually where I think I can use some help, is this Dream 100 concept that you were just talking about. That's kind of was ringing some bells in me. I'm like, that's where I think I need some help.
And some people it's interesting. I had one person a couple months ago say, cool, we did this process with them, their company, and they are very specific industry. And they go, Jeremy, I know all of our clients. We have 736 potential clients in the US. And they were thinking I was going to back down and go, oh, okay, we don't need to do this. I'm like, no, great. It's amazing that you're so niche, but there's a lot more layers that you can add to just the client part, right? Like we mentioned the strategic and referral partners. There's a lot of different types of clients. So by the time we were done, we still had a list of like over 100 from beyond what they already had, right? And stuff they'd never thought of, or industries that were related to that industry that they'd never thought of. So the first thing is that, which is when you have that foundation, it's like building a house, right? If you have the foundation right, then you can actually build a lot higher.
It's true.
And if you don't have that, you just start recording stuff online. you'll hit on some stuff, right? Like you're doing a lot of things amazing with your podcast. Okay. But then you can actually do them consciously and do more of it if you kind of have that strategy in the forefront. And we naturally, so that's number one, is the foundational piece, which is create that. And so I think for whether you're a doctor's office, law firm, everyone has like an ideal client.
Right. Perfect.
And also ideal referral partners for them. Okay. And then after that, it's like, how do you give them? Well, you feature them, you introduce them to people, and everything kind of, if you start with the right people, it flows from there, and I know, like, I want to leave people with something that's actionable. Let's say someone's thinking, Jeremy, I never want to start a podcast. That's totally fine. All of this applies to the business. And even if you want to feature them in an article or something else, the concept is have the Dream 100 and give to them, whatever way you want to give to them. It could be, I always like to end on something that's actionable. And something that's actionable that I think of daily is, even if you think of 10 people in your universe that have been champions of you, that have been amazing for you, if you send them a text or email today, just to thank them, it doesn't have to be on a podcast. You don't have to feature them, but it's a way of giving to them. Just text them, email them saying, I thought about you. You've been a huge advocate for me and our business. Thank you. That's it. It doesn't have to be, like you said, super complicated.
Yeah.
No one's going to be like, Tom, screw you.
Right.
Like,
right.
They'll be like, thanks. After this, I'll message Brian. I'm like, hey, Brian, Tom and I talked about you today.
Yeah.
Hope you're doing well.
I'll message Kim.
There you go. So
that's
the simplicity of it.
Well, brother, this has been great. So if somebody wants to, is there any kind of resource or something you want to get people going to, or do you just want to send them to your website if they want to get more information? Or?
People can go to inspiredinsider.com if they want to listen to some episodes. There's an awesome episode with Tom. Usually he's interviewing people, so you can hear some personal details about Tom on there. If you go to Rise25.com, and learn more. We have a lot of free resources for people to learn about podcasting and anything else you'd want to know.
That's great, Jeremy. Dr. Jeremy, thank you so much for being on the World of Marketing podcast, everybody. If you like what you heard today, you know what to do. Hit subscribe and hit that like button for us. We love that. You know what you're supposed to do there. And of course, if you're looking for some help with your web marketing, we're the place to go to. Of course, we help lots of lawyers and doctors, but we can help anybody. If you needed to see if your website's working for you, if your SEO is working for you, we're a place that you can chat with. Jeremy, thank you so much for your time today. As always, my friend. And I'm not a basketball player, but my son is. So maybe one day we can get you guys out on the court.
Let's do it.
All right, brother. Stay on the line. Everybody, have yourself a wonderful day, and I will see you soon.